I'm Björn Ludwig from Germany. I'm located in a small village at the Moselle River. Yeah. Actually, it was by accident. During my dental studies, I like to get a surgeon, an oral surgeon. And then I started with oral surgery, and I had a lot of failures, and it almost broke me. So my parents recommended going to orthodontics, saying you can't do anything wrong. So I went into orthodontics, and I realized this is one of the most difficult disciplines. So became an orthodontist by accident. For me, orthodontics is more than just my profession. Actually, it's a big part of my life. At a certain point, I tried to trick myself to say, okay, I don't like to go to work. I like to do my hobby. So I'm almost doing orthodontics 24/7. It's not about only my patients, it's about my colleagues. Most of my friends are orthodontists, like my family. So orthodontics is it's the hugest and the largest part of my life. I think it's changing because it's a big part of our society. Our society, surely you can put it negative because it's so much about social media and our surface and how we look like. But we as orthodontists, we can contribute in a positive way. When I started, it was about function and can you bite, swallow, eat, things like that. Today, I think if we optimize the smile, we give people quality of life in all ages from really young ones to elderly. I mean, now we have a lot of patients being 70 plus. So I think we can contribute to the quality of life and we get an important part. Sure, we are not saving lives or things like that. I think we have to be quite realistic, but we give people quality of life, and dentistry is changing. We are getting old with our teeth. And so we are doing less implants, less orthodontics, and maybe we do get 2-3 times orthodontic treatment. So I think we are an important profession, and I think the major thing is we give people a good smile and then finally quality of life. Maybe that I got orthodontics by accident, that I'm quite lazy. I'm always procrastinating. So as you know, I mean, you have some difficulties with me. If I cannot write an article today, I can do it tomorrow. So I always need a bit of a push to get going. And I'm very happy that all people around me, my family, my team, and also the JCO team is quite patient with me up to some extent. And yeah, I often feel guilty about it, but yeah. Mandibular space closure, I would say. I mean, normally we have in mind like anterior open bite cases, things like that, or like progressive condylar resorption, or the really heavy things. But on the other hand, when we treat anterior open bite, we know that every fourth case we have a relapse. I think the most difficult cases are those we do not expect that it's difficult. And in the era of having tabs and mini screws, it's not so easy to protract lower molars. I feel it's so difficult, and you have so many factors contributing to success: failure of the implant, biomechanics, double cable, biology. Also, I would say even some very simple case running into your office and class 1, everything is fine, just mild crowding. And then you overthink maybe the patient has a certain pathology or psychological problems or occlusal dysesthesia. I think the unexpected things are the most difficult. Everything which is super obvious, like bimaxillary surgery or malocclusion, which has a high percentage of relapse, it's easier because you are more tentative. I mean, yeah. Mostly imaging, because I think diagnostics is still the most important thing in orthodontics. We're always, since ever, this was my why I fell in love with the JCO was because it's all about appliances, aligners and screws and brackets and all these things. But as all I got, as more I realized, it's all about diagnostics, and imaging gives us a perfect view, and imaging has a wide range from just taking digital photos and making face scans now. And And today we can match all these and get an almost realistic picture of the human and base our decisions on a well thought and quite deep diagnostic approach. So imaging for me, it's and the ease of imaging today. I mean, you just take a few shots, you match it, and you have it instant. Even with a digital virtual articulator, all these, I think that's a huge change. Most probably, the range, the variety of cases we will treat, it's getting way more complex. We will have it will be divided maybe that a lot of general dentists will treat our relapse, the easy cases, and the specialist orthodontist has to be super skilled because we get more and more complex cases. I think that's a huge change. But there's also a positive change. We will be better supported by digital technology, which is a huge support. I'm not scared about it. I see it the opposite way. It will support us, maybe a bit more artificial intelligence, which will not make our work for sure. I mean, it always needs our hands to touch the patients when we get better support. So orthodontics is getting more challenging, more complex, but we will have much better support. And sure, there are some management challenges. Finding employees, keeping employees, how can we still treat a certain number of patients per day with a smaller team, with maybe more or less skilled team? So huge changes are in front of us, but I think we are well prepared and have technology. I think it was in 99 or 2000, my parents gifted it to me. My parents are no dentists, no orthodontists, but they thought I should read a bit more. So they gifted me a subscription to the JCO, and it was one of the best presents I got for Christmas ever. And since then, I'm a big fan of JCO. I need to be a bit more productive. But I'm pretty happy and honored that you allowed me to run the digital ortho section, the digital ortho lab, because this is for sure the future, and we need to do much more crossover between social media, that you have a barcode and you could download certain software or files out of an article so that people feel more engaged. And I think digital ortho lab and JCO is actually a must. I realized within the last 1 or 2 years, it's much more difficult to get it going than I thought so, but I'm quite proud and thank you for allowing me to do that. Mostly I see the covers because it always gives me a push and motivation. I have the covers in my seminar room. I have all the printed journals next to me. Always when I look at the JCO cover, it makes me smile. And when I have a sad day, when I have maybe some friction or confrontation with employees or with some patients and I see the cover, it brings me back the joy what I feel about my profession. It's about all these legends like Björn Ludwig or Ravinanda and also everybody published there. And it always gives me some positive push. The clinical orthodontics is still valid. It's still okay. I mean, we are in an evidence-based world, which I think is super important. We have to justify what we do against politics, against the societies, against insurances. And so evidence-based orthodontics is quite important. On the other hand, we are clinicians. We are just clinicians. We are not really researchers or scientists. We have to treat patients, and JCO is exactly in that niche. It's when you read it, you feel it's okay that you just like to know how to do better enamel reduction or bend a small wire. And I so much hope that it will survive well and more people read it, because it's a big relief to remind us we are basically clinicians. We are treating patients. I think social media groups, we are running a bigger group. It's short-lived, you know. I think we should uplift the quality on social media. We need to. But even if you deliver on social media very good quality, and maybe it's even honest and evidence-based, it's much shorter lived. You post something today and it's forgotten tomorrow. But if you have a peer-reviewed journal like the JCO, it will remain almost forever. I mean, in the moment I read a lot of articles around the 70s, 80s, 90s, you look back, and this would be close to impossible, I think, to social media. I see it complementary, we need both, but for me, it's a deeper, a more fundamental worth if you have it published. I don't know if publishing will always remain printed, physical, or stay online, but same thing, I think, doing all the whole process. I mean, the process is quite complex, you know it better than me, from peer review to layout, production, and it gives a certain worth, and I think that's so important. And it, for me, superior than to social media. Yeah, and I mean, they think if you follow certain social media groups, that's enough. That's good. I'm updated, but it's not true, because people direct you in a certain direction, and if you do not read the older articles, if you do not read like that, the Alexander articles and some master clinicians, I mean, I would say everybody should invest €1,000 and just download all the master clinician articles. It would be wonderful, but people, I wouldn't say they are lazy or they are not willing to invest. Social media, give them the, it looks like you just don't need to. The best, my most classic is Canine Substitution, the almost 4-part article by Björn Ludwig and Marco Rosa. I still remember when I saw the first time, it was like eye-open, and just, I never have seen such things before, the gingivectomy, the bracket changes, amazing. And I think it changed dentistry. And there are a lot of such articles in JCO which change the world. Maybe if you look back, like the Hilger's pendulum, or later Pitts with the smile prescription, or Gavi with extrusion and intrusion arches, all that. These are very simple articles, but most of these articles were the starting point of the big movement and a lot of studies, and it was like the initial spark of a lot of things. I think the main reason is the archive. For me, if a young one, we just had recently an in-office course, and then I asked people, and 90% had no subscription to any journal, because that's a downside of social media, because you get all the content. It looks like you get it for free, so you are satisfied. But I think we have to overcome ourselves and at least subscribe to 1 or 2 journals. And I would think the archive, because the archive, it's history of orthodontics. A lot of things started in the JCO with Beard Medicine, with so many others. And looking through all the articles, it gives you a good understanding of where we are coming from. It brings in context which is ongoing in the moment. So that would be my number one. The human remains the same, but the technology is changing. I was so addicted to self-ligating brackets and lingual and chats and 3D imaging, and I thought there is a magic miracle or to treat my patients, and it took a while, and actually too many cases, thousands of patients, to recognize it's not the appliance who treats the patients, it's us. And the human biology, all this will remain the same. And maybe we find some smaller, maybe marginal gains to optimize, but there's not the huge thing. And it took a while to get confidence in myself. So I said, my brain, my knowledge is an important part, and certain biological limits I can never overcome. We will always need extractions, and we always see recessions, and we will face some relapse. To accept this and not trust into the next big hype. Sure, I'm still addicted to all these new things. I mean, it's joyful, it's entertaining, it keeps us little boys, but now I see it a bit more realistic. I say a lot of advices, but when I look at the younger generation, I had a lot of talks within the last year with the younger generations, meaning below 40, and they often feel guilty because they go to lectures and these are perfect cases and that they follow my prescription and then you will be successful. And then they do it at home and they struggle and they fail and they feel guilty. And I say, don't feel guilty. We are all in the same boat. We do the same mistakes. We have the same relapse. We face the same problems. So take it just as and try to be honest. Try to share your errors and mistakes. We all have it, and then you can improve. I think so frequently here we can be grateful to be orthodontists because we are wealthy, we live well, it's a nice job. That's absolutely true. But on the other hand, it's a demanding job because we need to be successful. Our patients expect success. And if you feel down as a young orthodontist, just ask an older one and they will share with you. We were all in the same situation and it will never end. But if you're honest and open, all will be good at the end. Stay curious and look at all opinions. Most frequently, when I talk to residents, they say, when you lecture to us, it sounds logical, but last week we had another lecturer and it also sounds logical, and he just taught us the opposite. So I'm totally confused. And that's absolutely okay to be confused at your stage. Listen to as many opinions or even evidence as possible and let it sink in. And sooner or later, you will develop your own style, but it will take a while. And don't get too confused or worried or lower in class 3 cases, class 3 deep bite cases, lower lingual anterior bite stops. I think Neil published a paper about that, but it's well known since about 3-4 decades. And I love it. When I compare, if I have a class 3 case with functional mandibular shift, and he can bite edge to edge, it's my go-to tool. And I think that's the future of medicine in general. Low tech, frugal techniques. And in orthodontics, we always have these big investments. And as older I get, and I enjoy the little curves. It's easy, cheap, economical things. And